So here's my political overview for the week. Kamala Harris and AOC have emerged as the front runners for the 2028 Democratic nomination. They have surpassed and ran so far beyond Gavin Newsom, who has just dropped significantly back. And this is just the realization that he's just a slick salesman politician that will engage in any type of media or propagandic activity to look out for his own interests. And you can see this with him, passing more data deletion laws that will impact and disrupt social media algorithms. You can see this with him having a really silly social media presence to combat Donald Trump, where he's trying to match Donald Trump's ridiculousness, right? Like Donald Trump will post a video of Hakeem Jeffries wearing a silly sombrero and a mustache, right? And you think that's so ridiculous. Look at the AI generating these images. There's no way that Chuck Schumer actually said that stuff, right? You just you're not moved by it when you see it. But there are people who just laugh at it because it's hilarious on one itself too, right? It's a silly, a serious congressman has on a Mexican hat and a long mustache. It's just, you can't not laugh at that, especially with the Spanish music playing in the background. So, but yeah, Gavin Newsom's doing ridiculous things like flexing and saying I'm taking on Trump, making it look like he's engaged in like a Cory Booker like street fight in California, right? Cory Booker's from like the projects in New Jersey, that's a real political street fight there. Gavin Newsom, it's literally just being in charge and keeping the tech companies happy. And he just takes a little bit further and prods and pokes at the president of the United States so that he can get some layups, right? Where we're going to send in the National Guard. Gavin Newsom loved that. Gavin Newsom was praying that they sent in 20,000 people there because he wanted to emerge as the military dictator of California to fight on Trump. So you have to be careful with someone like him because he will take it as far as it can go. This brings us to Kamala Harris, also a Californian. Again, I think she's tied with AOC at the front. And Kamala Harris has had the famous quote this week where she said, essentially, the right wing is crazy motherfuckers. And some might, so this is a genius point, right? Because one, she's giving a laughing bit to her party, right? To the left, because they do see Trump supporters and as crazy people. So, but what she's also doing is stoking the fringe of the right wing, right? So this is going to be like the right Christian Brotherhood. This is going to be like the super fascist Trump supporters, the super neo-Christian nut jobs that dominate, right, the social landscape for Republicans like Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, Joe Rogan. She knows that they're going to pick that up and immediately be like, can you believe she said that? So then she gets to engage in combat with them. And everybody knows that, she's destined to go on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's just how, what are the terms going to be for it, right? Because what is Joe going to get out of it? He probably doesn't want to see her. I guess he gets out of it a good conversation and some another media bit. So she probably has a lot more to lose, but she should be really preparing to go on his podcast sooner rather than later because she wants to keep that momentum going and address that wrong that she had. There's no reason in waiting because I'm not trying to bash Rogan, but we don't know. I have to agree with Cuomo, with Chris Cuomo on this, saying that Joe Rogan is probably going to dip, right? Like, it's just, he can't be king forever. So if Kamala Harris can go on the top guy's podcast, address it, she can then write out what other podcasts she goes on in the future. And that's potentially what we're seeing like on the right with J.D. Vance doing, what we saw secret agent Kash Patel do, and going on and doing his, I'm so pro FBI and I'm finding corruption all over the FBI and they were discriminating against the right-wing people. Just a typical man of the state, for God's sakes, where he's just like, he's not focusing on like individual responsibility or separation of, powers within the government. He's really bolstering up the state to take on Republicans, to take on stuff that he sees under his agenda that help himself and the Republican Party. So, but back to the Democrats. Yeah, AOC's had a really interesting social media presence this week. She's been all over TikTok and a lot more on X. And this is interesting too, because it's Elon Musk's, X, which is a lot more right wing. But if she can break through on there like she's doing, he'll take the checks that she's writing. He'll take the algorithmic benefit that her bots will give him. So these people AOC knows how to make deals. She knows how to close. She knows how to talk to a crowd. She's attractive. She speaks her mind, right? That was hilarious that she talked about men's height. I don't really know what she said, but I'm sure, she has a preference and maybe was expressing that, right? But it's just, it doesn't matter what she truly thinks. It's the fact that she's willing to say that stuff that's going to resonate with people. And I think she wants to, there was some memes coming out saying that she was going to team up with Crockett, right? And probably won't be the choice. Crockett's remembered for having the congressional street fight with Marjorie Taylor Greene, where they traded barbs back and forth. And again, I think she could be a good barking dog for, I think Crockett could be a good barking dog for AOC, but AOC now has the chance to emerge as the female leader of the pack, which we just see with like hyenas. And maybe we see it in lion packs too, right? Like we know there is leadership from the males, but they really aren't around that much, right? When it becomes this female-dominated system of hierarchy, they have the lioness leaders too. So AOC's like the hyena, or I'd like to say more the lioness, or maybe the Black Panther because she has darker skin. So not to be offensive or anything, but yeah, she's got that going for her too, that she's a minority from Queens. So it's a great American hero story as well, taking on the system. She doesn't have as much as like the Kash Patel stuff that I see where you're deferring to the state. AOC is a lot more doing different things, doing stunts, acting like a celebrity, and getting people's attention. And that's going to get you really far in trying to win a Democratic nomination. So probably the biggest thing that is lacking from the Democratic nomination process is a statesman like Obama. And maybe that's because Obama's still around and he's the statesman, where Bill Clinton's like the Sundance Kid, but yeah, there's not really the statesman candidate yet. I wonder if Shapiro can emerge as that, right? As the Pennsylvania governor that has been subject to horrific anti-Semitic attack against his family. If he can really carefully get a pulse on this and emerge to show forgiveness, understanding, connection, trust. If he can hit on those things, people will see the leadership, will see an attractive leadership element that will help them overcome the fact that he has been also a man of the state, right? He was a DA using the state to press charges against people, using the state to arrest people, using the state to put people behind bars. In some case, good reasons, but also in some case, not great reasons, right? DAs are notoriously, I'm a lawyer, I know this for a fact, they are obsessed over their win rate because that's how they can get promoted. That's how you can get political agendas right, where it's like I put away 95% of the defendants that I was up against. And when I think of DAs, I always remember the thin blue line. Earl Morris is fantastic and probably one of the best documentaries next to Grizzly Man. But in The Thin Blue Line, the Texas district attorney says, I know how to, in Texas, anybody can put, anyone in Texas, anyone could put a criminal to death with a death penalty. But I know how to put an innocent person to death with the death penalty. So I butchered it, but that's essentially how sociopathic he was, that he doesn't, whoever his target is, they're going to bring down. And The Thin Blue Line really made you kind of question that with the person that they brought charges against versus the psychopath. But yeah, so the statesman we're not seeing emerge. If I had to say who's being most statesman, I'm going to, the Democrats wouldn't like this, but it's probably J.D. Vance, right? He went to Charlie Kirk's TV televangelist funeral and gave a stump speech talking about Christian values, family, unity, leadership, sacrifice, all the good things that are positive things to hit on. And he's also really, Trump's really helping him as a mentor to get him involved in a lot of key areas. And Trump's being a great mentor in the fact that he's letting Vance go and be the leader on things. And that's where Biden probably could have, we wish Biden had done that more with Kamala Harris, right? Biden did give her a great challenge in putting her in charge of the border, and she failed on that. Objectively, you have to say she failed, right? Because she was the highest point person in the country, only to the president that was responsible for it, and tried to do revisionist history and say it wasn't really under her purview or that it wasn't anybody's fault. But a good leader would take responsibility for that and say, you know what, I was given that and I didn't do a great job, and this is what I would do in hindsight. So if Harris can shift to that type of talking and risk and hope, she has to take the risk in that she'll be soundbited to death, right, with all the flaws that she's talking about. But if she can have an organic resurgence where people go, you know what, I can relate to what she's saying. Yeah, you know what, I've also had times where I didn't fully grasp what was going on. And, you know, she's still like not that old for like a politician standpoint. So, and she was able to really take over that campaign after Biden dropped out. So she has a lot of political pulse, probably now second place to Barack Obama. Especially she took the risk and wrote a book, not even like 200 days after the election, which is a crazy risk to take. And I'm sure she got paid a lot of money for it too. But to just that brazenly be like, yeah, I'm going to go dump this out right now and go out and hit the stumps again and go hit the social media tour, I think shows a lot about her resiliency and wanting for the job. And you want someone who does want the job too, because they're going to, that drive is what, you know, will help get them through the really hard times that emerge. Lastly, for my home state of Pennsylvania, you got goofball Fetterman, right? Mr. Hoodies and Shorts that is now taking some, you know, safe passage, I would say, under Trump, right? Because Pennsylvania is a red state. It increasingly has seen Dave McCormick be elected, and came in, you know, at historic rates for President Trump. So Fetterman has had big performances on the news too. He's gone on Bill Maher. He has a big social media, not as big as others, but he has a social media presence, and he's like the grungy. He's the grungy brother, right? That is kind of you know, people can relate to, right? And it kind of has an edge, but ultimately is going to probably let you down just because, you know, what is his leadership style, right? We haven't really seen one. We don't know, other than for Israel, we don't know what Fetterman stands for. He's taken tremendous risk. He's gone on Rogan's podcast. I mean, he checked himself to get mental health treatment. All, I would say, major risks to take too and to share. But we'll have to see if that can continue, where he gets some of these authenticity points, where, you know, you're exposing what your weaknesses are and to the people and turning that into a strength. Because people, it's mental health is exploding right now, and there is nothing wrong with having to go get treatment like that. What we do have to weigh is, though, do we want that person to be president of the United States? As someone with mental health, um, I don't know. I try not. You look at RFK, right? A heroin addict recovered. Definitely with that comes major psychological stuff, and he's the head of HHS, and he seems to be leading fine. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see where the American people are at. So, yeah, we'll have to see if AOC in the next few months takes the big lead. If Harris, takes the big lead. Or if someone else emerges, right? Someone comes from out of nowhere and shocks the world.